All right, everyone. Today is July 3rd, the Friday before Independence Day, July 4th. Coming to you live Friday evening. Coach Joey and Coach Renee here. First off, I've been going through the food log journals. I got really sick last week. This is really the first day I've kind of felt back to normal. I'm still going through them. I've talked to some of you. I've messaged some of you about sitting down and talking with you. Some people did all right, some people not so good. But we're going to take a break this week from nutrition, and we're going to talk about something a little bit more lighthearted, geared towards CrossFit. So I don't know if you guys can see this. There's a big pile of CrossFit gear here on my desk, and this is always kind of a big topic, especially with some of the newer athletes. So when you talk about CrossFit equipment, obviously I understand when you're coming into the gym, sometimes it's tough to make an investment in something that maybe you're not sure about, or maybe you don't kind of equate the value to what it might provide for you in the CrossFit gym. So we're going to kind of start from the smallest level and then kind of work our way up into some of the more expensive stuff, and some of the stuff necessary, some of the stuff not so necessary, and you're just going to have to decide personally. First thing, if you borrow something more than once, you need to buy it. If you borrow a belt, if you borrow wrist wraps, if you borrow tape, if you borrow knee sleeves, if you borrow weightlifting straps, whatever it is, if you borrow it more than once, you need to buy it, because at that point, it's justifiable that you're going to need it again. So that I'm going to say first. So kind of starting at the bottom of our pile here with some of the smallest stuff. Number one, tape. All right. There's 100 plus athletes come through the door every day, and I get the question, Coach Joey, do you have any tape I could borrow? I do have tape, and no, you cannot borrow it. It's tough for me to say that to you, but this stuff's about $5 a roll. So if I had to provide tape for every single athlete that comes into the gym, I would lose my butt financially handing out tape. They sell it at Dick's, they sell it at Sports Authority, they sell it at CVS, Walgreens, Publix, anywhere they sell first aid stuff. I prefer the brand that Dick's carries, because I don't know if you guys could see that or not. I like to rip my tape in half when I tape up my thumbs. I don't use tape to tape up my hands. I know some of you are always concerned about tape for taping your hands. Here's what happens. You guys ask me to borrow tape. You use about half a roll to tape up your hand. You get 3 minutes into the workout, and then you take the tape off of your hands. So $5 a roll, this is it. No more borrowing tape, all right? If you've borrowed it more than once, you need to buy it. Here's another brand of tape that comes kind of cut in half already. I'll say this, if you buy a roll of tape and you leave it in the gym, you could kiss it goodbye, because if somebody's like, Coach Joe, do you have any tape I can borrow? I'm like, no, I don't, but somebody left a roll over there. You're more than welcome to use it, all right? So keep that in mind. Number one, tape. Anything to add on tape?
I'm pro tape. I think that
Pro
is,
tape.
of all the CrossFit investments, that's the number one.
Cheap. And if you keep it in your car, keep it in your locker, wherever, it'll last a long time. If it gets left in the gym, it'll last one day. All right. So, kind of scooting along our pile here. Let's see. Something a little bit lack of important, lifting straps. We can kind of skip above this, or kind of right by this. Not many people are going to use these. They sell them at Walmart, Sports Authority, anything like that. I have some Lift Big, Eat Big ones that I've kind of modified for Olympic weightlifting. Anywhere from $5 to $15. If you're interested in more information on these, I'll go over it with you. But the majority of the time, you're not going to use that. So
Not necessary.
yeah,
Not for CrossFit.
you're gonna skip right over that. Next thing we're gonna talk about, wrist wraps. All right. So a lot of people come to CrossFit. They start to have some wrist pain. We're starting to deal with some barbell. You have flexion in your wrist, extension in your wrist. If you look, I don't have really great extension in my wrist anyway. It's not somebody who could bend their hand back. One of the big problems with the wrist is people equate the pain to having their bar or their hand back in the flexion extension position and then overextending, and that's what's causing them the pain. All right. So here's a little tidbit of information. A wrist wrap is not designed to minimize the pain in overextension. So if I take this wrist wrap and I wrap my wrist, and there's tons of different wrist wraps. I recommend if you're a little bit newer to CrossFit, just buy some cheap ones to start from Walmart. The elastic ones are like $4 or $7 or something like that. These are a little bit more difficult to use, but they're a little bit more productive. But they're anywhere from $15 to $25. So if I
can interrupt real quick. The benefit to these kinds is that you can adjust them quickly throughout a workout. So if you're doing, something that you might want your wrist supported like an overhead squat, and then you're moving on to pull-ups where maybe you don't want something impeding your flexibility there, they're easy to loosen up. So that's the difference between like a PR wrap and something you find at Walmart.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So when I put a wrist wrap on, this is meant to stabilize my wrist in a neutral position. So if I'm doing bench press, if I'm doing overhead squats, if I'm doing a clean and jerk and I jerk the weight overhead, this is meant to stabilize in the neutral position. This is not going to help my wrist pain if I'm doing handstand push-ups. My wrist is still going to be bent back. This is not going to help my wrist pain if I'm having a hard time in a front rack position. It's not going to help my wrist pain from a push-up unless I do it from like my knuckle or my fist. This is only meant to help stabilize the wrist in a neutral position. So if you're having wrist pain, it's usually going to be another issue unless it's coming from an overhead position where you're not strong enough. I don't know if you guys can see my hand, to support a bar this way and the bar is pushing your wrist back. So if you have questions about wrist wraps, obviously come see me. If you have questions about wrist pain, then again, we need to come see me. But usually wrist pain is going to equate to some range of motion or mobility stuff that you might just have to work out over time.
As far as wrist wraps go, I'll say this. I used to use them a lot. I have a plethora of colors of wrist wraps. And when I came back from having the baby and I started using a little bit heavier weight overhead, I noticed that I had similar pain to when I started CrossFit. And I can tell you that now I don't. In time, you'll build that strength. So I recommend just building strength in your wrist over using wrist wraps. So as far as something you actually have to have, in my opinion, don't have to have them.
Don't have to have them. All
No.
right. Have to have them. So next thing we're going to talk about, knee sleeves. All right. A lot of people come up to me and they ask about knee sleeves. They may have some knee discomfort or whatever the case is. One, if your knees are bothering you and you're having some pain, usually it's just going to be in relation to an overuse injury, common with any type of sport performance training. They don't call it tennis elbow for no reason or runner's knee for no reason. It's because when you do the same thing over and over and over again, you'll typically develop what's an overuse injury. Most of the time it's going to be tendonitis, a little bit of rest, a little bit of ice, a little bit of ibuprofen. If you're not doing those things, you can't come up to me and tell me about your pain and tell me that you have an injury, because the first thing I'm going to tell you to do is rest, ice, ibuprofen, and start there. And you have to do it. You can't just do it once. You have to repeatedly do it. But knee sleeve, a couple of different brands out there. I have a couple of different ones, kind of depending on what I'm doing. So these here, these are from Hook Grip. I've talked about Hook Grip in the past. These are about 12 bucks. Primary function of this is just to keep your knees warm. It's like a sock. There's not much to it. It's probably more closely related to wearing like a compression sock on your knee than anything else. You're not going to have any real lateral stability. It's not like a hard brace. It's not going to keep your knee tracking properly or anything like that. More or less just going to keep your knee warm. As stupid as it sounds, I like to wear knee sleeves almost every day. I also like to wear them if I'm doing something like a burpee, because I know I could drive hard with my hips and my knees are going to hit the ground when I'm coming down. So that's good. Then you start getting into a little bit more heavier duty knee sleeve. This is a company called Ray-Ban. They've been around for a long time. They focus on a lot of strongman gear, but they got involved in CrossFit quite a few years ago. There's a website, a little plug here, called jackalsgym.com. That's where I order all my Ray-Ban equipment from. They're locally in the United States. You usually get your stuff pretty quick. I've always had pretty good customer service as far as returns and exchanges and whatnot. These get a little bit pricey. These are anywhere from about 30 to 40 bucks each. So if you want to make a bigger investment, again, primary is going to keep your knee warm, but they do create a little bit more stability on the side to side. You can see that it's not going to help with any tracking issue, but it's going to give you a little bit more stability. I'll say that these things get pretty funky. If you ever have questions about washing these things and how to do it appropriately, I'd be more than happy to help you out. But especially during the summer, you're going to want to air them out. So anything for knee sleeves?
I'll say that anytime I've had any kind of knee soreness or anything like that, the knee sleeves have helped. I think that they are, I enjoy wearing them through the workouts, although you don't often see me having them on. So if you have any kind of knee issues, I definitely would recommend. I use the Ray-Ban ones.
Sweet. All right, so next thing we're going to talk about, lifting belt. I am somebody who came from a little bit of a powerlifting background. Anybody who knows me since I've done CrossFit knows that I am loyal to the barbell. Spend a lot of time lifting weights. Probably not the best decision for my body in the last couple of years, but as I'm recovering, I'm starting to lift weights again. So yay me for that, all right? Weightlifting belt, common misconception. If you wear a weightlifting belt, it's gonna make your core weak because you're using it to stabilize your core, when exactly the opposite happens when you use a weightlifting belt. I actually posted an article on this on Facebook a couple months ago. So essentially what happens is when you wear a weightlifting belt, in layman's term, it's gonna give you something to push your core off of. So it's almost like a cue. It's almost like squatting down to a ball to get to depth. It's gonna remind you that you need to keep your entire core tight throughout the duration of your lift, and it's gonna give you something to push up against as you're lifting. I went to a seminar a couple years ago, a guy that I used to follow pretty closely, and one of the younger guys in the group, he was a high school student, he raised his hand and he said, "Hey coach, my high school gym teacher says I shouldn't wear a belt because it's gonna make my core weak." And the coach that was teaching the seminar, he looked at the kid and he said, "When you go back to school on Monday, you tell your weightlifting coach that he's an idiot." And you know, those of you who know me pretty well, I could appreciate somebody belting out a comment like that. But his rebuttal to that was that if you Google any power lifter, weightlifter, and you look at the world record deadlift or the world record back squat, and you Google that, the guy is going to be wearing the belt. So the strongest guy in the world is going to wear a weight belt. It has absolutely nothing to do with your overall core strength. It has to do with core stabilizing during the lift. So if you ask me, should I wear a weight belt? The answer is yes. I think you should wear a weight belt when you're lifting. Then I get the question about, should I wear a weight belt when I CrossFit? That's always going to be a personal question. So for me, if I'm doing a CrossFit workout and the deadlift gets heavier than about 315, I'm probably going to want to wear a weight belt, just because it's going to keep me in check. But other than that, I'm probably not. If there's heavy cleans or something like that, anything over 225, I probably would wear a weight belt also. But again, that's a personal decision. I like the Velcro weight belt. It's convenient. You can order this on Amazon for like $12-15. The Atlas one is the one that I like the best because the hardware on it's metal. A lot of them use plastic hardware. But regular leather belts you can order on Amazon also. Anywhere from 12 to, they make custom ones up to a couple $100, all right? So that being said, the last few things we went over wrist wraps, we went over knee sleeves, we went over belts. All right, so I want you guys to think about this really, really long and hard. Every day when I work out, usually when I'm done working out before I go get lunch, I take a shower and I have a laundry basket that sits next to my tote over there. And because it's so hot and humid in here, I don't throw my clothes in the laundry basket. I'll usually hang my compression underwear and my t-shirt on the edge of my laundry basket so it would dry out and not smell so bad and get all soiled while it's sitting in the laundry basket. The question that I have for you is, if you came into the gym and you needed a pair of underwear, would you grab that pair of underwear, go in the bathroom and put them on? The answer is probably no, all right? So this knee sleeve, this weight belt, this wrist wrap gets washed way less than that pair of underwear does before I wear it again. So when you think about walking over there and grabbing somebody's weight belt, wrist wraps, knee sleeves, or something like that, this is like a soiled piece of underwear. And my junk, my privates, are probably cleaner than my knee is. I would assume so because it's covered up during the whole time. So when you want to wear my knee sleeve or my wrist wrap or my weight belt, think about that. I don't like to share this stuff because for me, I think about that. I don't want to wear your underwear. I don't want you wearing my underwear. All right. So again, if you have to borrow something more than once, think about making an investment in it for yourself. Anything on that?
Oh yeah, don't use my shit.
Oh, okay. Oh, Coach Renee. All right. So a couple of things we're going to talk about and then we'll be done with this. It's going a little bit longer. Next thing, jump rope. For most of you, when you start at CrossFit, just lost my other bracelet. For most of you, when you start CrossFit, I give you a jump rope. If you leave your jump rope at the gym, everybody knows I don't babysit it. So if it's hanging over there in the corner, I'm not going to tell people they can't use it. That's your personal property. If you don't want people to use it, don't leave it in the gym because that's just the nature of it, all right? As far as jump ropes go, though, I can promise you right now, if you cannot do double unders, it's not your jump rope, 100%. 100%, all right? So don't ask me what the best jump rope is for double unders. There's really no answer. It's more of a personal preference. Jump ropes range anywhere from $5 all the way up to the $40-$50 range, and I'm sure that you can get some custom yada dadas that are probably up in the $100 range. I like the Smart RX ropes. Got one a couple years ago. This one's a couple years old, actually probably going on 3 years old. Still has the original cable on it, original handles, held up really well. Some people prefer some of the other speed ropes, but again, not spending too much time on the jump rope. It's more of a personal preference than anything. If you can't do double unders, the jump rope is not usually going to fix it. You're just going to have to spend some more time practicing. All right?
I'm going to throw this in. If you do double unders and you want to improve on the amount that you can do at a time, the Smart RX jump ropes, you can get different thickness of ropes, and they're pretty easy to put on and off. And if you work on a thicker jump rope and then you go to one of the thin wire ones, you'll be able to like double your number. So it does give you a way to train on double unders if you're able to do them, but you want to be able to improve the amount that you can do in a single attempt.
Thank you. All right, so last thing we're going to talk about, and then we'll probably stop there. So when we talk about CrossFit, obviously you have all the goofy gear, the sweatbands or headbands, the CrossFit shorts, the shirts, all that stuff. Obviously none of that's necessary. So if you want to buy cool looking stuff to CrossFit in, totally up to you. If you just want to, if you want to buy some of the more inexpensive stuff that you're comfortable in, that's not going to change your performance. So obviously next thing we're going to talk about, boom, 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 shoes. All right. So obviously I do CrossFit for a living. So I invest a little bit more money in this kind of stuff than most people would. Starting at the bottom, if you're just new to CrossFit, your best bet for finding an all-round shoe, something that you can do just about everything in. Obviously, if you come in the door and you're asking me what's the best shoe that I could get for CrossFit, I'm usually going to recommend something. CrossFit Nano is always a good one to go with because you can run not long distance but mile distances in them. And then the Nike Metcon seems to be pretty popular these days also as far as an all-round CrossFit shoe. So not real specific on one thing or another, but you're going to be able to do most things in the gym pretty comfortably. I'll say that the Metcon seems to be a little bit more comfortable for people that are switching over from like a running shoe, where I know people who switch over to Nano sometimes they'll end up with maybe shin splints or something in the beginning. You have to be careful because a Nano is pretty close to a zero drop shoe, so even though it's not a minimal shoe, there's not much support on the inside of it. It's pretty flat on the inside, and there's not much of a heel toe drop. So when you're transitioning from a running shoe to a CrossFit shoe, you might want to do it slowly over time. So maybe wear it twice a week for a month, and 3 times a week, then 4 times a week until you get to where you've transitioned all the way out of your running shoe. But obviously, like I said, that's something that you'd have to kind of decide on. But if you're looking for one single shoe for lifting, CrossFit, running, to get you through the gym, I think the Nano or the Metcon, which I don't have a pair of Metcons to show you, are your best bet. Obviously, when you talk about other sneakers, I've dealt with some knee issues this year, so I've been playing around with some other shoes. Minimus, New Balance makes a really, really great shoe. I have a really, really wide foot, so you can order them wide. This shoe's pretty much good for just about everything except for rope climbs. This shoe would get destroyed on a rope climb unless I was going legless. So that's gonna limit one of the movements that you can do. But really good shoe, a little bit less expensive than some of the other ones, not bad. Reebok has a couple of cross trainer shoes. I've actually am wearing a pair right now that I've been trying out. I seem to like those, but again, it's gonna limit the rope climbs just because of the material that they're made out of. Going a little bit further than that, we talk about the weight lifters or the lifters. These are some of the original Reebok lifters. Great CrossFit shoe. You could probably do just about anything in them. Your feet will start to hurt a little bit, especially if you have a high arch. I don't recommend running in them, but if you're looking for a lifting shoe that you can also CrossFit in, this is a really good option. If I'm doing something that has like even something as simple as like high volume wall balls and pull-ups, I'll wear this because I know that's going to help me be a little bit more comfortable in the wall ball squat position. And so I'll wear this periodically for CrossFit workouts. I'll choose to wear my lifters. And then obviously the last thing that we have, the coveted weightlifting only shoe. I say if you're not interested in just weightlifting, don't buy this. It kind of still drives me crazy a little bit as a weightlifter at heart when I go to CrossFit competitions and I see someone doing burpees in a set of these or a set of the Addy Powers or any weightlifting specific shoe. If you wear this shoe to do burpees, you don't care that much about weightlifting, you should probably just buy a pair of regular lifters. It's just my opinion, but I'm sure somebody will flame me for that comment, but that's just a personal opinion. I'm not trying to put anybody down. If you prefer wearing these, then so be it. But just my personal opinion on the weightlifting shoe. Muscle Driver USA, they sell a shoe that looks like it comes out of the exact same mold as this Nike, and it's usually about $100 less. So I didn't know that at the time when I bought these, or I would have just bought a pair of the Muscle Drivers. I've seen them in person. They're a good looking shoe. I've held them side by side in my hand, and they look almost identical. So, but like I said, if you ever have a question about weightlifting shoes or footwear in general, you know, always feel free to ask me. If you have questions about gear for CrossFit in general at all, you can come see me or Coach Renee or any of the other coaches, and we'll be more than happy to at least get you pushed in the right direction, I guess you can say. But at the end of the day, it is a little bit of an investment like everything else, but if you think about your performance in the gym, comfortability, things that are going to help you excel, things that are going to prevent injury, things that are going to allow you to train longer without injury, like I said, at the end of the day, you start to collect some of this stuff over time. This is my suit. So I have like one suit that I own because I don't wear a suit very often. I know some of you probably have 20, 30, 40 suits in your closet. So, you know, like I understand if it's not your priority, but just, you know, keep it in mind. Anything to add? No? All right. So remember, if you borrow more than once, buy it. $5. Coach Joey doesn't have any you can borrow. If you leave it in the gym, somebody's going to borrow it. All right. Well, that's it. You guys have a wonderful 4th of July. Stay safe. This went on way longer than I thought it would, so watch it all the way to the end. Subscribe to our channel. I don't know how many subscribers we have, like 11 now, so I was really excited about that. But you guys have a good weekend, and we'll see you next time. All right? Out.